I'll let the play speak for itself, but I want to point out that every word spoken by Steve King in the play is an actual direct quote from him. And just so the King family lineage is clear, I'd like to introduce this couple in turn of the last century clothing. This is Heinrich and Augusta Harm, who were Steve King's great-grandparents. And now, meet Steve King's ancestors.
Wake up, Augusta. We've been summoned.
Who is calling?
A huge chorus this time, mostly from our beautiful America.
America?
Oh, it's about our great-grandson, Stephen, Emmett's boy. He wants us to know about some children in America. They're dreamers.
Oh, see how healthy he looks. He's got our Frida's eyes.
He seems prosperous.
Shh, he's talking.
Some of them are valedictorians, and their parents brought them in. It wasn't their fault. It's true in some cases, but they aren't all valedictorians. They weren't all brought in by their parents. No, for everyone who's a valedictorian, there's another 100 out there who weigh 130 pounds, and they've got calves the size of cantaloupes because they've been hauling 75 pounds of marijuana across the desert.
Cantaloupes? Marijuana?
Shh. Culture and demographics are our destiny. We can't restore our civilization with somebody else's babies.
Heinrich, how can he forget about our baby, our Anna?
Passengers from the SS New York, welcome to Ellis Island. This way?
We were so tired, so poor, leaving our hard life in Germany. If you made the money for a little space in the bottom of a ship, anyone could come to America.
Well, not everyone. In 1894, we must ask, are you a prostitute? A convict? A contract laborer? A lunatic? An idiot? Did somebody pay your way here? Do you have a contagious disease? If you answer no to any of these, you can come in. In 10 years, we'll add beggars, epileptics, and importers of prostitutes. And by 1917, if you were 16 and couldn't read, you weren't welcome in America. Next were quotas. First, Chinese laborers were kept out. Eventually, we closed our doors to all Chinese. We also moved against the Japanese, and we gave it a nice sounding name to keep them out. The gentleman's agreement. So it's not as simple as legal versus illegal, but for the most part, on this day, March 26, 1894, if you could get yourself into America, you were allowed in. Next, you there. Come on up. Adults' names?
Heinrich Harm and Augusta Johanna Weick Harm.
Where from?
Schleswig, Holstein, Germany.
Occupation?
Farmer.
Children, ages?
We have Frida, age 4, and our son Julius is 2, and Anna is only 6 months.
Our baby is dying. She is dying.
I'm registering 3 children. She is breathing, far better than usual. The steward shows all 648 passengers got off the boat. Usually 4 or 5 died. This is a better day. Move ahead. Move along.
Our family did move along. By train and wagon, we landed in New Branch, Iowa, right next to a town called German City.
We weren't far from the land where they put all the Winnebago Indians. Iowa was named for Indians, we learned.
That was before our time. Our new German friends helped us build our house.
We were welcomed. We could breathe free. Neighbors dug up a pail of sauerkraut for us.
Farmers were needed. The soil in western Iowa was black gold. Anything could grow there.
But the first thing we dug...
A month after arriving, our Anna Harm, 7 months and 4 days, died of blood poisoning. 2 days later, we buried her in Fairfield Cemetery in Rock Branch.
Has Stephen seen her grave? We had so many dreams for our Anna.
Iowa was growing and changing. The year we arrived in the capital city of Des Moines, a newspaper for Black Americans started rolling off the press, the Iowa Bystander.
We couldn't read it. It was in English.
But we got along fine speaking German. The Danes in Iowa spoke and worshipped in Danish. The Norwegians spoke their Norwegian, the Swedes spoke their Swedish. We all tamed the prairie and made this state grow.
Shh! Stephen is going to tell the story.
Pro-English, America's leading English language advocate, is on Capitol Hill to interview Congressman Steve King about his sponsorship of the official English bill, House Resolution 997. Congressman, on behalf of Pro-English and millions of Americans, thank you. You've taken the lead in this battle for not just the 114th Congress, but for all of us for years. What got you started on this whole concept of making English our official language?
I remember the incident, and it would be October 10th, 1996. I was a candidate for state senate, and Governor Terry Branstad came out to do an event with me at a shelter house in Denison, Iowa. He gave a speech, and I saw that it was all rousing applause for that. It was time for me to give my speech. I just ranged all over the map. I talked about things as they would come to my mind. When I got to this part that I did not really plan on saying, and I said I believe that English should be the official language of the state of Iowa, it brought the house down. So I realized that I had touched a nerve with something I'd believed for a long time. But there was a newspaper reporter, an editorial writer, sitting in the back of the room, and he decided to write a critical article about me the next day. You know how it goes, racist, bigot, xenophobe, all these names. So then I had to defend myself, and twice a week they would write an attack on me, and I would always respond to defend myself. I knew that when I got to the state senate, I needed to carry that bill. It took 6 years to establish English as the official language of Iowa, and now there are 31 states that have it.
32. We just added West Virginia last month.
Well, that is good news to me. I'll have to congratulate those folks from the almost heaven state. Iowa is heaven, you know.
When is he going to tell the story?
Just wait.
I grew up in an era where there was much focus on assimilation. My grandmother, Frida, came over from Germany and raised 6 sons and a daughter. My father was third in line out of those 7. When he went to school on his first day of kindergarten, he was speaking only German, and it must have been very confusing for him to go to school that day. But when he came home and he said hello to his mother in German, she turned to him and said, "Speaking German in this household is for you from now on verboten. I came here to be an American, and you will go to school and learn English, and you will bring it home and you will teach it to me."
That's an incredible story. It's a story that you can tell on Capitol Hill.
But he didn't tell the whole story.
Is there no one on Capitol Hill who knows history or can do math? We came to America in 1894 when Frida was 4 years old. She got married at age 29. When her third child, Emmett, was in kindergarten, she had been in America for at least 32 years. According to Stephen's story, she and the rest of the Harms were still speaking German after 3 decades in Iowa. He also didn't mention what happened the year after Frida got married, when Germans became the enemy.
When World War I broke out in 1918, everything German became suspect. The governor of Iowa signed an order, the Babel Proclamation. It said all Iowans could speak only English in public. Very quickly, things were different. Street names were changed. Our German newspaper, Der Demokrat, shut down. We couldn't even say sauerkraut. We had to call it Liberty Cabbage.
Ducks and dogs became Liberty pups. German measles were Liberty measles. If people suspected you of being loyal to the German fatherland, those born in America would paint your fence posts yellow. They would make you kiss the flag of the Stars and Stripes in front of your neighbors.
Remember the statue with the arms outstretched in Davenport? It was Iowa's Statue of Liberty. Well, one night it was painted yellow. Then it was taken down.
In those dark days, if a German farmer bought a new house or more land, he was criticized. He was told that the money should have gone to war bonds. The fine for not speaking English was $100.
That's $1,500 now.
And 6 months in jail.
We, the Germans, were singled out. Officials almost never went after the Swedes or the Danes or the Norwegians.
Oh, the Norwegians. Not much has changed there. America's new president doesn't like immigrants unless they happen to be from Norway.
Don't we want to conduct the business of Congress in English? We have to pay to teach people how to buy food stamps in foreign languages. Just think about how much more food we could buy if we used only English.
Does he not know my relative, Catherine Harm, came to America and she never learned English? She died an old woman in South Dakota speaking German.
She was so sweet and hardworking. She wanted to be close to the children in the family. She hid candy in her apron pocket to give to them if they would come near her. They didn't understand what she was saying. They were scared of her. For goodness sake, she was only trying to be their friend.
As a child, he used to love to walk in his grandmother's vegetable garden and flower beds. Frida loved her flowers.
She wouldn't let anyone pull a flower that came up in a vegetable bed. It was to remain alive and give beauty, not to be thrown away like a weed.
Frida used to say, before her husband met her, he was like a tumbleweed.
Oh, Cecil King, J.C., called himself a hobo. J.C. got mad if you called him a tramp or a bum, but he was homeless as a young man. His parents were immigrants, but he was born in America, in Missouri.
And he struggled just like us. He rode the rails looking for odd jobs, camping in hobo jungles through the Dakotas, Missouri, and in Iowa. He jumped on slow-moving trains.
Keeping a lookout for the railroad Pinkertons. They would have jailed him.
Oh, it was a wretched time, huddling with other hobos in freight cars.
Eating nothing but mulligan stew.
Using his shoes as a pillow so they didn't get stolen.
Government help got him respectable. He joined the National Guard and got himself to Woodbury County.
Which is where he met our Frida and married her. They raised goats, and he carried the Sioux City Journal on rural routes for years. They read the paper faithfully and believed what they read.
Do you remember the trick J.C. used when buying coal at the elevator? He'd weigh in on the sled, but he would let his brother Ernie weigh out. Ernie weighed a lot less, so they'd get a heap of coal for free. He forgot that ethics are for poor people, too. You know, it was the government that supported J.C.'s son, Emmett, Stephen's dad, for all his life. Emmett worked for 38 years as a dispatcher for the Highway Patrol for the Iowa Department of Public Safety.
His daddy's government job didn't seem to cut the mustard when Stephen started speechifying for votes.
Government is a dirty word for him.
Remind me who wrote Stephen's paychecks in the Iowa State House and now in Congress.
When I get paid for taxes, when I get paid for picking tomatoes, taxes are taken out. And those taxes pay for Stephen's salary. I don't have a real social security number, so I never get back the money that's taken away from me. But my children are dreamers. They were promised they could become full Americans.
Are they valedictorians?
No.
Do they have extra strong calf muscles?
Why, yes.
I don't think our great-grandson will open the golden door for them.
And why not?
He forgot where he came from.
Carl Sandburg. When a society or civilization perishes, one condition may always be found. They forgot where they came from.
They lost sight of what had brought them along. The hard beginnings were forgotten and the struggles, but eventually the mockers came and the deniers were heard, and visions and hope faded, and men whose forefathers would go anywhere, holding nothing impossible.
Joined the mockers and deniers, but not knowing the past, they lost sight of what brought them along.
Our great-grandson needs to go back to school to read history.
To read the poetry of Mr. Sandburg and Emma Lazarus's words.
To understand our country's constitution.
To visit our graves.
We're going back to them now.
We were called here by many souls and voices. So many people are with you and your dreamer children. You are not alone. Wake up our great-grandson.
Enlarge his heart. He comes from people whose hearts burst open with the joy of liberty.
He can learn. It can happen.
Oh, I'm not so sure, Augusta. Now he is passing on messages from an Englishman who praises the Nazis. Yes, the Nazis. Stephen endorses this man who believes the Holocaust didn't happen.
Why does Stephen and that horrible David Duke keep saying diversity is not our strength? It was our strength in German City and throughout Iowa.
Stephen took a picture of himself with a Dutch politician who wants to ban all mosques and Islamic symbols. Stephen wrote under their photo, "Cultural suicide by demographic transformation must end." And he doesn't now want Muslims to work in pork plants.
I don't want people doing pork that won't eat it, especially if they think I'm going to hell for eating a pork chop.
Muslims came to Cedar Rapids just after we arrived. They have lived in Iowa peacefully for more than 100 years. Why has he turned on them?
Remember, Stephen was silent when President Trump called immigrants animals.
So we are animals to our great-grandson.
Stephen has publicly compared immigrants to dogs. I'm afraid he won't change.
What can and must change, then, are the minds of the other descendants of immigrants in Iowa. They can choose who represents them.
They can, Augusta. And that they must.
Our actors. Susan Voss playing the pro-English interviewer. We have Gabriel Tejada playing two roles, the Ellis Island immigrant and the worker. We have Steve King himself, Steve Berry.
I want to personally apologize for having that first name.
Augusta Harm was played by Becky Scholten, and Heinrich Harm was Jeff Rohr. And I thank them all for